ISIS has released new pictures showing destruction in the ancient city of Palmyra in Syria.
The photos show the terror group blowing up a temple within the UNESCO World Heritage Site. State Department correspondent Margaret Brennan joins us now. Margaret, thanks so much for being here.
Sure.
So this is not the first artifact that they have destroyed. What's the significance of this, though?
Well, this is a 2,000-year-old temple in a centuries-old city known as Palmyra or Tadmor locally. And it's really one of those artifacts from the crossroads of civilization. I mean, this predates the dawning of Islam. And this is partly why ISIS claims it wants to destroy it and destroy what they see as sort of pagan temples and artifacts that are left over. But the thing that's a little bit contradictory here is they've had absolutely no problem selling on the black market a lot of these artifacts. It's actually become an increasingly important funding source for them as the U.S. and others have made it harder and harder to sell oil onto the international markets. And people at the State Department, at Customs Control, say they've been trying to red light. These are the artifacts to look for. Don't let these cross the border. It is incredibly hard to do so, and it is providing a lot of funding for ISIS.
That was going to be my question, is what kind of recourse do the U.S. and other countries have in trying to fight against this particular aspect of ISIS's tactic here?
Well, when it comes to cross-border selling of it, they try to clamp down. But when it comes to what's happening in Syria, very, very little control. Remember, the Assad regime is still ostensibly the government in control of this country, though not this part of it in Palmyra. And a lot of different archaeologists over the past few years have been trying to funnel them hide pieces, bring them to Damascus, which at least at the moment remains under government control. Now, the Assad regime has killed more people than ISIS has, but ISIS is really, when you talk to people at the UN and elsewhere, attacking a culture. They are killing, in the words of one archaeologist, the past, the present, and the future in many ways of a country, because these sites were hugely important sources of revenue for tourists in the future for a Syrian state, and they're killing the history and really doing this in many ways because they want to erase what exists as a civilization there now.
Is that their rationale from ISIS?
Well, the claim in this, what some would call a PR move in releasing these very high-quality photos of the destruction of the temple, is that this is offensive to Islam, because this is a temple that predates Islam at all. They also destroyed a Roman Catholic monastery that was, thousands of years old as well. It's really just trying to erase that. A lot of these foreign fighters in particular don't have roots in the community like some Syrians do who find personal pride in this. So really, the U.S. can't do much, but they are trying to fund through groups. Do you remember Monuments Men, that movie?
Yeah, of course.
There are still groups that the U.S. still funnels money into to try to save and preserve something.
It's a daunting task. What about UNESCO? Is there anything that UNESCO is able to do in light of what's happening there?
Well, that's the UN body that tries to protect cultural sites around the world. And this is one of the most historically important sites because it's at the crossroads of civilization. Remember, this is where civilization was born from in the Middle East. They're calling this a war crime, to add to the list of war crimes that ISIS has carried out. What does that mean in a practical sense? Not much. But what it could mean in the future is that it would help to bring different efforts at the UN and elsewhere to bring charges against someone or to stop the funneling of these things across border just to make money. It's really hard to stop some of these items going into Turkey. That's where they're ending up now, and they're being sold. So they go underground for a bit. You may not see them pop up onto the world market for a few years, but at least now museums around the world can be at the lookout for some of the little statues that might be taken. But there's no rebuilding these temples.
All right, State Department correspondent Margaret Brennan, nice to see you in person. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.